Hi guys, so in this video we're going to be taking a look at male reproductive system. Now the basic function of the male reproductive system is for the production of sperm. Alright, so now looking at this structure now is basically divided into two major parts. We have the penis and the scrotum. Okay, now because this is primarily for production of sperm, we're going to start talking about this diagram from the scrotum. Now you can just find one testis here because it's a lateral view of, that is the side view of the male reproductive system. Normally there are two testes. All right, so let's now look at the structure, the inner structure of the testis. Firstly, you need to know that it is in the testis that the sperm is produced. Okay, so let's magnify the structure of the testis now and look at the components. And the testis has a structure with different lobes, or you say compartments. Different compartments, and this compartment contains things like tubules that are convoluted. Okay, so the tubules in this compartment are convoluted. So it's made up of convoluted tubules. Those tubules are called the seminiferous tubules. The seminiferous tubule. And it is in this tubule that sperm is being produced. Now, these tubules contain two basic types of cells that work in synergy to make sure the production of sperm is possible. Now, the first is what we call the first type of cell is the Leydig cells. Leydig cells. Now, what's the function of the Leydig cells? The Leydig cells play role in production of testosterone, which is a male hormone. So Leydig cell produces testosterone. Now, let's look at another type of cell that is found in the testes. We have the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells. What's the function of the Sertoli cells? It produces what we call ADP. It produces ABP, and that is androgen bonding protein. Produces androgen bonding protein. Now, the testosterone and the androgen, firstly, the androgen bonding protein, since it's a bonding protein, it bonds with the testosterone. So when the androgen bonding protein bonds with the testosterone, what happens is that it is able to produce the sperm. Okay, so that's what happens here. Now, all this process will not be possible without the brain. And there's a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. Hanging on the hypothalamus is what you know as the pituitary gland. And then we have the anterior part and the posterior part of the pituitary gland. The anterior part specifically releases a hormone called gonadotropin. Gonadotropin. This gonadotropin, we know there are two types of gonadotropin. We have the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone. So we have the LH, luteinizing hormone, and the FSH, follicle stimulating hormones. Now, these two hormones, they play different role when it comes to production of sperm. Firstly, the luteinizing hormone assists the Leydig cells, right, to produce testosterone. The luteinizing hormone tells the Leydig cells to produce what? Testosterone. Meanwhile, the follicle stimulating hormones tells the Sertoli cells to make the androgen bonding protein. Okay, so this is the relation between the pituitary gland, the gonadotropins released by the anterior part of the pituitary gland, and the cells of the testes. All right. Now, when this sperm is produced in the testes, what happens is that it travels to this structure here. So let's label this the testes. The testes. When sperm is produced, it travels to this structure here. This structure is known as the epididymis. Epididymis. Now, what's the function of the epididymis? The epididymis temporarily stores protein, stores sperm, rather. It stores sperm produced in the testes temporarily, and but now this sperm stored in the epididymis are immature sperm. They are not mature yet. Okay, it stores immature sperm until they are mature to be released. Okay, so the epididymis stores sperm temporarily. Now, from the epididymis, when the sperm are mature enough, it moves into this tube now that will later come out from the penis. But when it gets into this tube, this tube is known as vas deferens. Vas deferens. And this is where the name vasectomy comes from. So if you don't want to have children anymore, you can cut this part, which is a vasectomy. Okay. Now, when the sperm moves to the vas deferens, it goes up to this point. Now, when it gets to this particular point, you can see that there are some structures here. Now, this in green is what we call the seminal vesicle. It's a gland. Seminal vesicle. It contributes about 2/3 of the fluid of the sperm, the seminal fluid. It contributes about 2/3 of the seminal fluid. All right. So when the sperm gets to this particular point, the seminal vesicle produces the fluid, all right, that helps the sperm. Now, one of the content of the fluid produced by the seminal vesicle is fructose. Fructose. Now, this fructose serves as energy source. Okay, so the energy source for sperm is fructose. It helps it, gives it motility, the ability to be motile. Okay, now when it gets here, it mixes, the sperm becomes semen actually, right? Now there is this other structure that is a little bit enlarged at this point, and that structure is what we call the prostate gland. Prostate gland. Now this prostate gland enlarges as you grow in age. Okay, it enlarges as you grow in age, and in some people it can be a very serious problem. All right, now when it gets to this point, it now moves down. Now this structure is known as the bladder. Bladder. And it has nothing to do with the reproductive system actually. It is just part of the urinary system. Okay. So when it gets to this point, it moves down to out from the penis. Okay, now looking at the penis, these parts, let's label this. This is the penis, and this part is the glans penis. Now, the penis is actually a spongy structure. That means it has, it's like a sponge with different blood vessels, all right, with a lot of blood vessels lining it. Okay, so when there is an erection, what simply happens is that the blood vessels dilate, allowing blood to flow into the penis. So basically, during erection, it is blood that is filled. You have blood filled in these parts. Okay, that's what happens. The blood vessels there dilate, allowing blood to flow in for erection to be possible. Okay, so this is just an overview of the male reproductive system.